I am 72 years old. I've been a father for more than 30 years, and before you think this will be an easy story to hear, I want to be honest. What I'm about to tell you is not meant to make you feel comfortable. It is something I wish I had heard much earlier in my life. For a long time, I believed I was a good father. I went to work regularly. I provided for my child's education. I taught my child to be a decent person, to be independent, to know right from wrong. I did not neglect my responsibilities. I did not do anything outrageous, and at least that was what I thought. Now I'm sitting here in my son's old room. The study desk is still where it used to be. The books he once read are still neatly lined up on the shelf. His jacket still hangs behind the door. Everything is exactly as it was when he lived here. There's only one thing missing: him. My son is still alive, but he is no longer here. And that distance is not always measured in kilometers. I am not telling this to complain, but to warn you. Because there is a kind of loss that is very hard to notice when you continue to fulfill your role, yet slowly disappear from the life of the person you love the most. I once thought that doing my duty was enough. I once thought my presence was measured by money, advice, and reminders. I was wrong. Not because I'm a bad person, but because I confused doing things right with being there. If you are a father, a mother, or simply someone who believes you have already done enough, please listen to this until the end. Because I fulfilled my responsibilities, and yet today I'm still not sure I was truly there for my child. When I look back on my years as a father, I used to feel fairly reassured. I went to work steadily for many years. I made sure my child was well educated. I taught him to try hard to stand on his own feet, to distinguish right from wrong. I did not beat him. I did not abandon him. I always thought that was enough to be called a good father. There were not many arguments in our home. My son was well behaved. He rarely caused trouble. We lived under the same roof for many years without any major conflicts, and I took that as proof. Few arguments meant things were fine. Fine meant good. But over time, I began to notice a strange emptiness. I knew which school my son attended, what subjects he liked, who his friends were. But I did not truly know what worried him, what he feared, or what he dreamed of for himself. We lived in the same house, yet his most important thoughts did not live with me. At the time, I could not put a name to this feeling. I just thought, when children grow up, that is how it is. But the early signs were already there very early on. My son used to knock on my door just to ask if I was free that day. He used to sit at the dinner table longer than usual, waiting for me to look up from the newspaper. He used to say a few casual, almost random sentences as if testing whether I was listening. And I always had a reason. I was tired. I still had work. Later. We could talk tomorrow. I did not mean to hurt him. I truly did not. I just thought those conversations were not as important as what I was doing. I thought there was plenty of time. I thought we could always talk later. But later is a very dangerous word, because every time I said later, my son learned something else, that I was busy, that his stories were not urgent enough, that he could handle things on his own. At first, he kept asking. He kept coming to me. Then, slowly, he stopped. He no longer knocked on my door. He no longer waited for me at the dinner table. He ate faster, went back to his room earlier, went out more often. There were no arguments in the house, no tears, no major confrontations, just a very polite silence. We spoke only what was necessary, asked out of courtesy, answered just enough. Two people living in the same house, yet like two strangers, sharing the same space. At the time, I still thought everything was fine. I was even proud of my son's independence. Until one day he left home, not in anger, not in tears. He simply left. For work. For his own life. Physical distance appeared, and with it, another kind of distance harder to name. Messages became less frequent. Phone calls grew shorter. Real conversations almost disappeared. Only then did I begin to realize that someday was no longer as certain as I had once believed. I wanted to ask more, to listen more. But every time I picked up the phone, I did not know where to begin. Familiar questions felt awkward. Deeper conversations seemed to have missed their moment. And then, one very ordinary evening, I sat alone and realized the problem was not that I had done something terribly wrong. The problem was that I had not been there. I had been present in terms of responsibility, but absent in terms of emotion. I had been a father in the way I was taught, but I had not been there for my child in the way he needed. That sentence kept repeating in my mind. Doing things right does not mean being there. I did many things right, but in the moments my son needed me most, I was often absent. Not out of malice, not out of deliberate indifference, simply because I thought I still had time. And when that realization arrived, it was too late not to hurt. It felt like an incision, no blood, but something that never truly disappears. And from that moment on, I began to see everything I once called enough in a completely different way. There's one thing it took me many years to accept. And once I did accept it, it hurt in a very different way. The relationship between my son and me did not fracture because of some major mistake. There was no shock, no dramatic incident, no single moment I can point to and say this is when everything broke. It did not die because of anything explosive. It died because of very small things. The times I was not there, the times I chose something else, the times I thought silence was safer than an honest conversation. I used to be proud that I never did anything wrong. I did not yell at my child without reason. I did not neglect my responsibilities. I did not disappear from his life. But then I realized that not doing anything wrong does not mean you are doing what is right. Being a father is not only about avoiding harm. It is also about choosing to be present, and I did not do that often enough. Looking back, I see that this relationship did not fall apart because of one bad decision, but because of thousands of very ordinary ones. Every time I did not look up when my son was talking, every time I answered just to finish the conversation, every time I thought later we'll be fine. None of those moments was big enough to make me stop, but they accumulated. They stacked on top of each other, and by the time I noticed there was nothing left to add. People often think families break apart because someone does something terrible. Infidelity, violence, abandonment, but in my case, no one did anything awful. I only did the minimum. I met my responsibilities. I fulfilled my duties, and I confused that with love. I thought providing was love. I thought advice was love. I thought physical presence was love. But the love my son needed was something else. He needed me to listen when there was no problem to fix. He needed me to stay when there was no clear goal. He needed me to care about things I considered small simply because they mattered to him. I did not do that. Not because I did not love my child, but because I believed love by itself was enough. I thought if there were no major conflicts, everything was fine. I thought a relationship would sustain itself as long as no one actively destroyed it. I was wrong. Relationships do not sustain themselves. They need to be nourished, and if they are not nourished, they do not die immediately. They simply dry out a little each day. I often think of it this way: if you starve a tree, it does not wither right away. It still stands. It stays green for a while, but inside it is weakening. And one day all it takes is a light wind and it breaks. That is how I starved my relationship with my son. Not through cruelty, but through absence. The hardest thing to accept is that I did everything people praised me for. I was a responsible father, a serious father, a reliable father, and I lived long enough to understand that none of those compliments say anything about whether my child felt loved. I met the minimum standard of the role of a father, but I did not meet the emotional needs of a growing child, and that does not show up right away. It only reveals itself when it is too late to fix easily. There is a strange sense of relief when I stop defending myself, when I stop making excuses, when I stop saying that I did my best. Maybe I did my best in the way I knew how, but that does not make the absence disappear. And in the moment I accepted that I sat quietly in my son's old room, I stopped looking for explanations. I stopped trying to prove that I was not a bad father. I just sat there, and for the first time I allowed myself to face the truth. I was there, but I was not truly with him. And that silence, painful as it was, became the only starting point left for me to understand how everything had unfolded. There are things I have had to learn to accept without hoping to fix them anymore. I cannot turn back time. I cannot return to the evenings when my son was still sitting at his desk, still waiting for me to ask him something beyond grades. I cannot take back the moments when he knocked on my door and I said later. Those moments are gone, and I have to live with the truth that there are gaps I created that can no longer be fully filled. But if you are listening to me right now, your story may not have ended that way yet. Maybe your child is still in the house, or still texting you, or still picking up when you call. And if that is the case, then you still have time. Not to become a perfect parent, just to be present a little more, to stay longer in a conversation, to listen without trying to fix. I do not know your situation. I do not know what your relationship with your child looks like right now. But I want to ask you one very simple question. Today, in what way are you beside your child, under the same roof, or truly in the same moment? Sometimes all that is needed is not a long talk, just sitting down, putting the phone away, asking one honest question, and staying long enough to hear the answer. Do not wait until your child stops asking. Do not wait until distance becomes a habit. If there is one thing you can do differently after hearing this story, do it today. Call your child. Sit beside them. Listen to them. Not out of obligation, but because one day you may find yourself sitting in a room very much like this one. And then the only thing that will echo back will not be the furniture, but the question you did not answer when you still had the chance.